My sister asked for full custody of my son, then filed a 12-page co-parenting plan without my consent. That's when we called the lawyer. I became a father at 24. My older sister Sable had been trying for a baby for years. Multiple rounds of IVF, fertility specialists in the next city, adoption inquiries that ended in heartbreak. When each attempt failed, Sable went into a downward spiral. Every holiday became a grieving session. Every conversation eventually circled back to parenthood and how cruel life was to her. I never expected to have a baby anytime soon. Marin and I were still figuring out life together. Nothing flashy, no grand plans. When she got pregnant, we were surprised but knew we wanted to keep the baby. We made it work by moving in together, setting a budget, making compromises. We were young parents, yes, but we were ready. When we told my parents, their disappointment was clear. They didn't yell or criticize us directly. They just expressed disapproval through tight smiles, questions that sounded more like warnings, and repeatedly mentioning how things used to be done. We didn't expect a parade, but we hoped for some warmth. Instead, it felt like we'd embarrass them. But after our son Kieran was born, things seemed to change. My mother delivered meals, though she always commented on Marin's tired appearance. Sable arrived with boxes of baby clothes, some still with price tags. She asked about our nursery theme, which we hadn't considered yet, and started offering suggestions, Pinterest boards, color schemes, diaper brands. It felt more like she was planning for her own child than helping with ours. Marin and I were exhausted from learning everything on the fly, so it was easy to accept help, but something felt off. Sable would hold Kieran for hours without letting go. She'd say things to him like, "Mama's here," and then giggle like it was a silly inside joke. Then she started showing up unannounced. I once caught her in our living room holding Kieran while Marin napped in the next room. She'd let herself in with a spare key she'd gotten from my parents when they used to own our house. We changed the locks after that. My parents, rather than condemning it, encouraged it. They volunteered to take Kieran for the weekend so we could rest. They phrased it as support, but Marin and I both noticed how they stated it as if trying to establish something more permanent. Every time we declined, the mood darkened. My mother would mutter that we were being too protective. My father suggested I think long-term. Then came the dinner that made everything clear. It was supposed to be a casual family meal. Marin and I brought Kieran, and we were about midway through when Sable held him up and stated right in front of everyone, "He feels like the child I was meant to have." Nobody flinched. My mother reached out and squeezed her hand as if she'd said something profound. My father looked at me as if I was being unreasonable by not responding. I stared at Marin across the table. Her expression stayed neutral, but I knew she was done. She didn't speak for the rest of the night. On our way out, my father stopped me. He said Sable had been through so much and that maybe this was an opportunity for us to heal as a family. Perhaps this baby could be a benefit to more than just us. He used the word selfless. He talked about legacy and putting family first. That's when everything clicked. This wasn't just grief. This wasn't misplaced love. This was a deliberate plan, subtle and disguised with civility and emotional blackmail. A scheme to take our son and reshape his story so it made more sense to them than to us. To give Sable the motherhood she'd always wanted, regardless of who brought the child into the world. Marin and I sat in silence for a long time that night. Then she told me something I didn't know. Sable had pulled her aside weeks earlier and asked for full custody of our baby. Not to help raise him or babysit. Full custody. She claimed it would heal the family and tried to sound compassionate, as if we'd still be in Kieran's life, but not as burdened parents. Marin had stayed quiet until now because she hoped it was a one-time lapse, but Sable had followed up twice more. We made 3 decisions that night. 1, Sable would never be alone with Kieran again. 2, no more drop-ins. 3, Sable wouldn't see Kieran unless both Marin and I were present, and it was planned in advance. I called my parents the next morning. I explained everything calmly, told them these were boundaries, not punishments. My mother didn't listen. She said Marin was trying to split the family apart and break us. She claimed it was all emotional manipulation. I told her this wasn't up for debate. We were Kieran's parents, and we'd made our decision. She hung up mid-sentence. My father showed up at our apartment without calling first. Marin took Kieran into the bedroom while I stepped outside. He started with small talk before quickly shifting to guilt. He talked about Sable's pain, the years of failed treatments, how hard it had been for her. I let him finish, then told him again this wasn't going to happen. He looked me in the eyes and said Sable deserved to be a mother more than I deserved to be a father. I didn't respond. I walked inside, locked the door, and blocked his number. 3 days later, I came home early from work. Marin opened the door pale and shaking. On the kitchen table sat a thick envelope my mother had dropped off while I was gone. Inside was a 12-page document titled Co-Parenting Plan for Kieran, with sections for weekends with Sable, holiday rotation, and trial guardianship written like a business proposal. I forwarded it to our lawyer without responding, and 3 weeks later, stood in court watching the judge grant us full custody with a permanent restraining order against my entire family.